have you found it? And the reason I asked this is, because we don't have a lot of women in the industry. It's a very male dominated industry. Have you found it a challenge, or have you used it to your benefit? Like, have you found, just from your experience?
It's funny because it goes both ways because bankers,
Right.
lots of women in banking, right?
Yeah.
Equipment, not so much.
Not so
Right?
much. Yeah.
But my previous job, the last 5 years before I did this,
Right.
was in car financing. So I would go to all the car dealerships primarily.
Sure.
So I'm used to it.
Right.
And also, when you get the terminology down, they know what you're talking about.
Sure. 100%.
So some lenders, there's a certain engine in a semi that they don't want, right? When I say that, they're like, oh, they will say to me, oh, you do know what you're talking about.
Right. Right.
Thanks, buddy.
And I even, and listen, I started out with it. I brokered equipment. Equipment was what I started out with long time ago. But like, it's all how you even, you're right. It's the terminology, right? You don't walk into a dump truck or a truck dealership and say a Peterbilt 379. You say a Pete 379. You know what I mean? So it's just it's getting like that slang lingo down, even for certain types of equipment. You don't say Caterpillar, you say cat,
It really goes a long way because then there's, oh yeah, she does know.
She does know what she's talking about.
And it's bizarre how many people actually say that to me. And then I don't
You actually, mean like they'll tell you,
says that to me.
You know what you're talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
You really do know what you're talking about.
You know what it is? I think it's a stigma, right? There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's 2 words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Entrepreneurs in Finance, where we explore the daily lives of graduates, employees, and everybody else in between of our organization here. So it's been a long time since we're a couple of months not doing an episode, and that really means that we are super, super busy here. But I am really, really glad to take the time and find the time to do this. And on this episode, this is a kind of a special one because it's close to home, which we'll find out what that means in a minute. And we have our guest is here in our conference room. So without further ado, I want to welcome Sarah Joseph of Rexford Commercial Capital. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
You came 2021.
2021,
right? And what package did you purchase? The platinum?
Yes.
The platinum package? Okay. All right. Listen, it's special to me, not only because you're here and we don't really get to interview graduates here in person after the fact. It's always done by Zoom. But what I love about this is you are very, very close to home. I mean, like you live in my hometown, right?
I do.
Okay. Yes. So it's very, very close. And I have to say, I think this is the first time in our history, 13-year history, that a graduate is actually operates from my hometown, or where I live now, not my hometown, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is kind of extra special. So let's start out like this, Sarah. What just made you even search for something like this? What were you doing prior? And what led you to kind of go on this journey to eventually find some company named CCTG, or Commercial Capital Training Group?
So prior, I had worked in finance in a couple different ways. So I'd worked at a bank doing just normal banking, home equity loans, but all residential.
Right.
Done car loans, things like that. I've worked the retail management, so all the sales aspect, and just got to a point where you want to do something for yourself.
Right.
So be your own boss.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
I wanted to build something. And so came across the CCTG information, and it seemed to just fit exactly with something I would love.
Were you looking for like a generalized opportunity, like a franchise, and then you just happen to stumble across us, which most people do?
That's exactly what happened.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah. Okay. So, all right, you stumbled across this. What was that moment like when you're like, holy shit, they're only like a half hour away from me? Like, as far as like the home base.
Well, it was great because I was like, they're going to be nearby. You can actually, and this was kind of like a COVID, right? So a little bit after too. And I believe we were the first class that came in person after COVID.
You're probably right. Yeah, if it was, so I have here July 2021 was when
And
you
I'm
came.
pretty
So
sure that was the first one you guys did.
right.
And everyone was back in person, so it was nice.
Okay. Yeah, that was I actually now it's all starting to come back. I think I remember that class actually. I mean, I remember it just to the feeling of coming back live, which
Yeah, it
is
was a big
a good
deal.
feeling for me. It was right
Yeah.
because I'm used to talking in the camera all the time, but now with a live audience, I thrive off kind of the live audience aspect of stuff. So, so did that feel comforting to you? At least that like, all right, there's this opportunity, you gain interest, and I could literally drive a half hour away and go meet these people.
Absolutely.
Right. And you did you not, or no? Did you guys come here? Did you actually come here prior to investing? Or no?
No, we talked on the phone.
Okay.
We did our, research, went back and forth.
How crazy is that? Right.
Right.
I mean, you're only a half hour away because people always say, I wish, I mean, we have people from all over the country, and I'm sure all of them would like to live a half hour away to kind of, make sure we're real, right?
And come see what it's
And
about.
come see what it's about. But you guys didn't do that.
We still get that afterwards. Like, you guys didn't come down?
Yeah.
No. But you guys were great with calling and talking and emailing and all the questions we had, right? And then you read the reviews, you can watch. You have so much information.
There is, yeah.
So you knew you were real.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how.
You didn't even like just drive by the office, like without even telling us, just to make sure there's an office building?
There's no sneakiness involved.
No.
No.
All right. Well, I guess we're doing something right if that's the case. If we can woo people who are only, a half hour away. So when you eventually came into, you decided to come to the program, obviously. Tell me about your experience that week that you went through.
So it was great. It was a nice size class, and there were several different presenters. We had presenters with the lenders.
Right.
We learned a lot.
Right.
Right. So, I have the banking background and the sales background, but there's all those different aspects that we didn't know about. So certainly learned a lot about that. Some fantastic advice. You had people that had been through the class that now own their own,
Sure.
not only companies, but do the financing as well. So you got to hear, this is what works. This is not, what doesn't work. Great advice was given during that class.
And did you leave? What were the emotions when you left that day? Right. Was it excitement, or was it confused? Was it?
Oh, it was excitement. It wasn't confusing. It was like, this is what I want to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There was no, I think from the day one, my business partner and I were like, this is what we want to do.
This is what we want to do.
This is going to be great. It fits both of our needs. And because of the package that we signed up for, we were going to have support for 2 years with leads, with other things.
Right.
So, we knew we had some backup also.
Sure.
To learn and make sure we were going to be on the right path.
Okay. What, so then, you left training, and as in training, we always talk about kind of picking a niche or picking a product segment to somewhat focus on, because it's hard, that could be hard, right? Because there's so many products you could essentially do and offer and earn a living from. What was your, like, first, I guess I'll ask you, what was that niche, or, that you picked and that you wanted to dive into?
So equipment was something right off the rip, and we still specialize in that.
Okay.
So, we have some contacts in dealerships. We have.
So vendor, you went like
Yes.
vendor relationships we established, right?
So we quickly established that, and so that helped a lot. Advertising that I did on Facebook, social media was equipment based. So, and it worked out well for us, and it keeps working out, and we keep getting more referral partners and things like that from, I shouldn't say referral partners, vendors.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to hear.
Working capital just came off of that, right? So they kind of go hand in hand. So we did working capital, and everybody talked about real estate, right? You got to get into real estate. So
it's sexy, it's attractive.
Right.
Sure.
So we waited a bit, but now we're doing real estate as well. So we did, in the beginning, it was just mostly equipment, working capital. And then now we brought in the real estate.
Gotcha. Okay. What was, can you tell me about the first deal you did? Like the first deal where you're like, wow, I actually did this. There's money in my account. Like it works. But like what, like how far before you did your first deal after you left training was that?
So from the time we left training, we were kind of just doing it very part-time for about 6 months. I started full-time in January.
Okay.
So we're just coming over a year.
Yep.
But shortly after the class, like I said, we have a vendor, and that was our first deal. Called us up. I've got this guy.
What type of equipment was it? Did the vendor sell?
Bus.
Okay. Yeah.
So I need to get this bus deal done.
Yeah.
And we were able to do it. And then that's a continued relationship.
Right. So that was your first deal.
That was our first deal. And it was great because it kind of got our feet wet, right? Here's what we need. You're still learning that. You go through the class and you learn how to do it, but you didn't actually do it yet.
It's like driving, right? I mean, you could read all the books you want of how to drive a car, but until you actually drive the car, it's different.
It is.
Yeah,
yes,
for sure.
It was a great feeling, and he was happy. The vendor,
sure,
right? Got my deal done.
Right.
Couldn't get my deal done.
Right.
And now he has confidence in us. So,
and it's a recurring relationship.
Yep, and it will continue to be that way.
So, Sarah, what, they always say you always know you remember your first commission on every deal. On this bus transaction, what was your commission?
Our commission was $1,200.
$1,200. All right. Okay. Well, it's a start,
it was
right?
A very happy $1,200.
Exactly. It's a validation $1,200, right? Like, okay, I actually did this. I actually, got some money out of this.
It's like the restaurant hanging up the dollar, right?
Your first one. It is. That's exactly what it is. Like a rite of passage almost, if you will. So you book that deal. What were some of your activities that you started to do to gain business? Was it more leads? Was it more networking? Was it just reaching out to the community? Talk to me about those activities that you started to do.
So very early on, we did a lot of social media advertising.
Okay.
We did get leads from the finance marketing group. And we did not network as we should have.
Okay.
Go to January. Now we're starting to see
January 2022.
Yep.
Okay.
Networking. We're not getting anywhere unless we network, which we were told when we were here.
Right.
But it really, we're realizing you can only go so far with just that one
outlet,
of marketing.
Sure.
For advertising. So joined a chamber, joined another chamber, Women's Business Council.
Great.
Tons of connections we have right now. I mean, the networking's where it's at.
Got it.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
And we were told that from day one, and it is absolutely true.
And what's funny is that did you, we obviously have an operation here. We have an operation here for a long time, even our financing company, right? I mean, that's our first company here. A lot of people worry about competition. And can you go on record and saying, and maybe I'm wrong, but like you haven't run into us, even though we're in the same community, you know what I mean? And granted, we don't do a lot of local business for what we do. Normally it's more nat because we have brokers, right? Grads send us deals from all over the country, but it's actually rare that we do local business. In fact, we have a $12 million deal we're financing for a developer in Saratoga, which I mentioned prior. I have to go see this piece of land. That's rare. I mean, it is rare that we get a deal, but this will be like the first deal in maybe a couple of years that we've actually did locally, so at least go on record and say that, because people always say, aren't you worried about creating competition? And here you are in our community,
the biggest
in a community, and you're doing deals, which is,
and it's great too. I mean, word of mouth, especially in a community like ours,
right,
goes a long way. Getting on with the ARCC, Adirondack Chamber of Commerce, the Women's Business Council, there's a lot of people in a lot of professions who know a lot of people. So
right.
Again, that we're, you help one restaurant, they're going to tell that restaurant.
Sure.
Think about, downtown Glens Falls, like George,
a lot of restaurants galore. Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, no, the competition, it
Have you done any deals for restaurants or working capital deals?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you care to mention which one? Are there any ones in our hometown?
There are, but I'm not sure they would want
They
me
would
to
want you
mention.
to? All right. All right. I was just wondering if any ones that I frequent, which is, it's just interesting to hear
I'll
that.
tell you later.
You can tell me off record. That's fine. That's great. That's great. It's it just goes to show it doesn't matter, even if there was like, 20 of you in the same area, Albany or surrounding counties.
And you're doing different things,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, everybody's
So
doing different things.
maybe we're on the equipment and real estate and they're on, at invoice financing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for
So
sure.
it's not necessarily, and real estate, there's enough real estate to go around for, anybody.
100%. How have you, so, progressing now into, let's call it 2022. So last year you started to do some more real estate deals, or is it, that started to come along?
So about halfway through the year, we started
Okay.
really going into the real estate. The beginning was still equipment,
Equipment.
working capital.
Right.
And we did really well with equipment.
How, you know, with regards to the real estate deals, you had a little bit of a background. I mean, but you did in residential, right?
So I used to work at a bank and just did residential home equities, mortgages.
How would
like
you
that.
equate the transition to commercial, in terms of that easiness of understanding commercial coming from a residential background?
I mean, it's different, but it's all, I mean, if you can do one,
You can do the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
What was your biggest challenge, coming out of training, would you say, in the first, I don't know, 6 to 12 months? What was that biggest hurdle you had to get over, would you say?
finding kind of the right way. We had to make a lot of mistakes
Mm-hmm.
to get to where we are now,
Right.
where we're really starting to take off.
Got it.
You have to make mistakes. But I tell that to my kids too, right?
Right.
How you got to make a mistake to learn.
Sure.
If you don't learn, then then okay.
You got to touch the hot stove and get a little bit uncomfortable so
Right.
not to touch the hot stove. I mean, if you look at the primal
Right.
aspect of it, right?
So maybe, I did some advertising that wasn't great and I spent, a little bit too much to do that and got nothing in return.
Sure.
Well, now I know not to do
Now you
that,
know,
right?
yeah.
Maybe we were going too much for one, working capital and should have been on this one.
Right.
Not networking a lot right in the beginning. So finding our way, that was the main thing. And, like we had talked about before, if you don't have that grit and determination, you are in drive, forget it. You can't make it.
Can you say that one more time? Repeat that.
Right. So if you don't have the grit, drive, determination,
Right.
you will not make it.
Yeah.
I mean, there could have been days we could have given up so many different times.
Yeah.
But no, because we know this is what we want to do. And every single day we're making some sort of forward motion.
Right.
Better relationships, better finding our way. And it's really helped us.
I always say everybody finds their own way. It's almost like a snowflake, right? On the surface, or if you look at snowflakes, I love this analogy. It looks the same from afar, right? It's white. They're small, like it's all the same. And so to afar, everybody thinks graduates, they're all the same. They go on the same thing, but everybody's journey is different, right? They're all a little different. Although there are some common things, right? Like you said, grit, determination. There are things that go into it that I think everybody would attest to that are successful in this business. And I'm glad you said that. I mean, that's, it's easy to give up. It is easy to give up.
Right.
Until you find your way. So, yeah, Sarah, I mean, everybody has their journey. And I think in one's journey, they're always going to come across challenges, right? Like you said, hard work, determination. Can you mention or maybe think of some other type of challenge that you may have run into, and how did you adjust to that? If you can think of something back in your business.
Sure, absolutely. So I do a lot of social media marketing, and we just weren't getting the results that we wanted. So I might get 100 leads and, 2 people might close.
Right.
So we called John.
Our John. Support. John. Yep. Okay.
And we were like, please help. What can we do?
Right.
It's getting to people. We're getting leads, but we're not getting the right leads.
Right.
And what he told us was stop, putting your ads out to get a certain person. Put your ads out for a lender.
Like a program, like advertise a certain program.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
So
yeah.
Instead of having something that says, are you ready to fix and flip or something? Instead, advertise for that program, that lender, that specific thing.
Right.
Target that.
Yeah. And which makes sense. Targeting, right? Instead of putting in, so you're saying instead of putting an ad out, which you were doing, saying like, we'll help everybody. Like we do real estate business loans, just send us our way. You were finding yourself wasting a lot of time because maybe you got tire kickers or people that, so you narrowed your focus, did a little pre-qualifying based on a program's parameters and put that message out there.
Especially with equipment.
Yeah.
Because with equipment, we'll have we have lenders, right, that can do day one. We have lenders that can do 800 credit. We have lenders right? So instead of just, do you need a truck? You looking to expand your business?
Right.
No, we're going to get specific to a lender. And that changed a lot. So John really made a difference with that. So it was awesome that we could reach out and he gave us that advice.
That's great. That's great. Have you guys, and I don't know this because I've maybe I did know this, but maybe I forgot, but have you guys ever come here in person to sit down with John or anybody here? Or no, it's all done by phone and email?
Phone and email.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Apparently we're phone and email.
Yeah. All the grads that are watching this that are far away, it was like, God damn it, they're not taking, I wish I was a half hour away because they'd probably be here every day.
John, they all get back to us. Like, it's not like, we're waiting 2 days to hear back,
right.
And so everybody, Alex, the team gets back to us.
Yeah. Did you guys have any interactions with Mac at all?
Yes.
You've heard about Mac, right?
He was here for our class. He was actually
here. Yeah. We miss Mac every day.
Yeah, wonderful man.
Passed on. It was shocking to everybody here, but I was just wondering if you had any interactions with him. Okay. So, and I guess I'll say this, what going into 2023, is there a milestone or a goal that you want to achieve?
So we had put together a business plan and, we were thinking we're trying to target 15 million amount finance.
Okay. That's good. That's a good goal. That's a real good goal. What's one of your, I guess, memorable deal? Like talk about a deal, how you really felt good aside from the first one, right? That always feels good, but a deal that you really feel good about helping that person. Like maybe there was a challenge and then you came in, provided the financing, and was there any kind of feel good transaction that comes to mind?
Absolutely. So with our dealer partner, a nonprofit business went there to get an electric powered, it was a box truck.
Okay. But electric box truck.
Correct.
Didn't know they made those.
They have to build it.
Okay.
So it's doesn't have those parts in it. So it took about 9 months to actually build it. So the dealer has to order it from the manufacturer.
Right.
They have the shell and then they have to
essentially build it.
Correct.
Right.
So from this day one, we put the customer's application in, but then we have to wait for everything to be built. Right.
Sure.
The cost of it was $187,000.
Wow.
They're a nonprofit.
Right.
So the lenders.
That's two whammies.
Right. So the lenders are like, are you kidding? There was a grant. So there was a grant if you take off an a gas powered vehicle and replace it, and you have the proof of everything going on. The grant was upwards of $100,000 for them to do this.
Wow.
So this lender was amazing and would accept that.
Right.
Saying, okay, we know we're going to get that money. So technically, with their down payment, with that grant that will be there within 90 days of them having the bus, now those payments,
it's like guaranteed for the payment. And they're in good leverage because they already have 100 paid back, right? And it was 187. So they almost have like a 60% leverage. Right. Yeah. So, it's a great deal.
The lender was amazing. The client, they're a great nonprofit. And it was so nice to be able to help them. And nobody else would help them.
Wow.
So it was helpful for the nonprofit, our relationship with the dealership.
Sure.
Because when somebody else comes back and wants it, guess who was able to get it done for them?
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
they're going to come back.
It's almost like in what maybe you've already done this, but what I would advise is create a program out of that. Like you yourself, right? Like if you know there's these grants out there to do that, you could go out to not only that dealership, but other dealerships and say, hey, knowing what you know, right? And saying, hey, look, here's a program you could develop with the lender and say, I have a program where if they want to do this, you could market this. We can come in, provide the financing, so long as this, this grant process happens. I mean, I think that is a bigger opportunity.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. Wow. Okay. So, what would you say to graduates? And then I'll get into you personally a little bit, but what would you say to graduates that are watching this that, that want to, maybe are struggling a little bit, and what would be your advice to them? Because it sounds like you've traveled that same road.
We've been on the struggle bus.
You've been on the struggle bus, right?
Yes.
To mention buses. I mean, what would you say to
them? Change something.
Yeah.
Right. You can't keep doing the same thing.
Right.
Call John. Right. Reach out to other people that have done it. You can't keep doing the same thing.
You have to adjust.
Right. If you're not going to make changes,
right,
then you are going to continue to not make, strides.
Sure. That makes sense.
I think you just can't sit on it and say, it'll come. We'll get it. That's something that we do really well is pivot.
Right.
So we like equipment. Well, maybe this specific advertisement wasn't working. Let's change it here. Let's go make another relationship with another dealer. Let's start visiting more dealers. Don't just sit and say, okay, well, the ad will work better next time. You have to change it.
Have you found it? And the reason I asked this is, because we don't have a lot of women in the industry. It's a very male dominated industry. Have you found it a challenge, or have you used it to your benefit? Like, have you found, just from your experience?
It's funny because it goes both ways, because bankers,
right?
Lots of women in banking, right?
Yeah.
Equipment, not so much.
Not so much. Right? Yeah.
But my previous job, the last 5 years before I did this, was in car financing. So I would go to all the car dealerships primarily.
Sure.
So I'm used to it.
Right.
And also, when you get the terminology down, they know what you're talking about.
Sure. 100%.
So some lenders, there's a certain engine in a semi that they don't want, right? When I say that, they're like, oh, they will say to me, oh, you do know what you're talking about.
Right.
Thanks, buddy.
And I even, and listen, I started out with it. I brokered equipment. Equipment was what I started out with long time ago. But like, it's all how you even, you're right. It's the terminology, right? You don't walk into a dump truck or a truck dealership and say a Peterbilt 379. You say a Pete 379. You know what I mean? So it's just how it's getting like that slang lingo down, even for certain types of equipment. You know, you don't say Caterpillar, you say cat,
It really goes a long way, because then there's, oh yeah, she
does know what she's talking about.
And it's bizarre how many people actually say that to me. And then I don't.
You actually, mean like they'll tell you,
says that to me.
You know what you're talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
You really do know what you're talking about.
You know what it is? I think it's a stigma, right? Like they don't think, and depending on the type of equipment you dabble in, like if it's construction equipment, you don't normally see women in construction, but if you know what you're talking about, right?
Right.
That is so true. I mean, I can't even tell you how to start or operate an excavator, but I know the difference between models and all that other good stuff,
Exactly.
That's interesting. Well, good. So, we come to this segment here in the podcast where want to learn more about you, maybe, just you personally, right? So our viewers can get an insight of kind of who you are. One of the questions we always ask here is, if you weren't in finance, right, what would you be doing, you think?
So my goal after high school was to be a math teacher and a coach, because I was really heavy into sports, love sports.
Yeah.
Ended up going to Siena.
Great school.
Yep. Love Siena.
Locally here.
And I went for math and ended up switching to computer science, graduated with a computer science degree, and never worked a day in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So there went that. But now with my kids, I am able to coach, which I love.
What do you coach?
So I did baseball with my son.
Okay.
And then I just did basketball, and coming up, I'm going to do my daughter's softball.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. In the community? Or in their school? Yeah, that's fine. No, in the community, or is it in
it's their school district.
The school says, okay, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you know what's interesting is my daughter, who's going to be 13. My son is a huge athlete. I mean, he does everything: skiing and football and lacrosse and all that good stuff. Although he just broke his ankle skiing. He went off a cliff on purpose, and he didn't see what was below, and he shattered his ankle. So he's bummed out.
Lacrosse season's coming up.
I know I keep telling him, you got to, when the boot comes off, got to go to rehab, and he crushed his growth plate. So it's a pretty significant injury. But we're pushing. He's dedicated. He's trying to get to lacrosse. Skiing is already X'd out, which that's his favorite sport. But anyway, my daughter though surprised us this year because she went into wrestling, which is totally weird. Right.
I've seen a lot.
She was totally, but but she held her own. Like she actually, and she's a skinny little thing, right? She's not like this, overweight, big. She's skinny
and strong.
She took down a bunch of dudes, a bunch. Yeah. And she loves it. Like she loves it. And, so I'm racking my brain. Right. And I'm thinking, to her mother too, which we have a great relationship. I'm like, why the hell would she do wrestling? Right. We can't figure out why Gigi, we call her Gigi. Why would she do wrestling? Right. I never would see it coming. Come to find out, the only reason she did wrestling because she liked the boy who was on the wrestling team. I'm like, but she actually excelled at it. She actually excelled at it. So it was like, I knew there was something there. Like she's never talked about wrestling. All of a sudden she's like, I'm signing up for wrestling. We're like, what? But now she loves it. Like she actually gets into it. She wants to do it next year, regardless. And chances are that boy probably won't even be there anymore, but who knows? Anyway, that's awesome. Another question, what's one thing that we normally wouldn't know about you that would surprise somebody if they found out about you?
I know you already know what the answer of this is. But, so I always joke, I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat.
Okay.
So I hate going out when it's very dark. Like if I have to go drive my son to practice and it's late at night and the car's like at the end of the driveway, I get all nervous. Like,
oh, you mean like you're scared of driving at night, or you're scared of just going out in the dark? Do you watch a lot of horror movies, or?
I like the murder mystery.
That's what it is. I'm telling you, it feeds into your anxiety. You got to stop watching those Datelines, those Dateline murder mysteries.
And just like spiders, I've been scared of spiders my whole life, and then I have to pretend in front of my children that spiders are wonderful and the dark is not scary.
Right. Yeah. Spiders are our friend, right? They eat the other bugs. At least that's what was told to me. Right. But yeah. Or that's okay.
I tried to get my 7-year-old daughter to squish them.
To squish them for you? Right. Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. But you got to stop watching those crime dramas because I think that's what it is.
It probably is. And I'm like,
but you know what? There's no crime where we live.
I know.
There's no crime where we live. There really isn't.
Nope. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that would ever happen.
And that's why I love that community.
Right. It's wonderful up there. But yet I'm looking around like there's going to be some like creature jumping out,
Yeah, true. There are creatures. Yeah. Okay.
It'd be like a little bunny.
So last question. What if you could sit down and interview anybody, living or has passed on, who would it be? If you could sit down and like get 2 hours of somebody's time, who would that be?
So very random, but I think maybe Drew Barrymore.
Okay.
Funny story. When I was younger, my friend's brother used to always call me Firestarter.
Okay.
Because young Drew Barrymore looked just like young Sarah Joseph.
Okay.
So I looked a lot like her when we were younger.
Interesting.
And she's done a lot, right? She's been a child actor. She's got her own product
She
line.
went through multiple, like,
right,
journeys.
and
for
she's
sure.
got a BFF named Adam Sandler, so he could come and then we could, fun little dinner.
That would be cool. That would be cool. Okay. All right. I could see that. Well, now it's one of my favorite or least favorite, depending on the questions that are asked, but we come to that section of the show where you could ask me any questions, and it doesn't have to be about the business. It could be anything personally. Nothing is, we don't hold anything back. And so have at it. I should say. She's got a piece of paper.
I don't provide any insight, so these are all on all the guests have to come up with their own questions.
Have to go on questions. That's good. Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So the first one is, who have been some of the most interesting people to go through the CCTG class?
Ooh. God. Well, I could answer that a few different ways. But I don't want to insult anybody. Most interesting. We've had, you know what I think it is? I think it's by nature of backgrounds that come through here. That's what always impresses me. We've had, we had a CIA agent one time come through here. You know what's interesting? We had, I don't know, Joe, I don't know if I've talked about this, but one class was interesting because we had two people that both, well, one came out and said he was like a former operative of the CIA. But this is the same class, right? We do intros, on Monday. And then we had another guy in the same class when he did his intro. And he just kind of said in the Monday, he's like, yeah, because I worked for the government for, 25 years, traveled around the world. And now I just retired and, I want to get something, but that's all he said. Right. So throughout the week, this guy that said he was a CIA operative he was bolstering every day about how he did missions in Peru and all these things. Right. And we get to dinner. Right. And the other guy that said he worked for the government just was very, very quiet and subdued. And we get to dinner and I happen to sit next to the guy who was very, subdued and didn't say anything. And we started talking and come to find, and the classmates, they go out to dinner at different nights of the week when they're going through class. And a couple of graduates had told me leading up to dinner, they're like, that dude, his name was John. He goes, he's the real deal. I go, what do you mean? He goes, he was the guy that they put down in Afghanistan, grew a beard. He worked for the CIA. He was a real CIA operative. And he knew 5 different languages. He's the guy that blends in with the culture and does the dirty work. Right. So I happened to sit next to him and we were talking and, he kind of led on. So I asked him, I go, well, what did you do? And he goes, I did work for the CIA and here's what I did. And I go, really? I go, oh, so did you know the other guy? He goes, that guy's so full of shit. He goes, number one, he goes, you don't act like that. You don't come out and tell people that. He goes, he is so full of shit. He goes, I can't even tell you. And this guy was the real deal. And the way that conversation came about is because I had asked him, I go, how did you feel about coming to training? Were you nervous? He goes, no, I wasn't nervous at all. And I go, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, I looked you up. He goes, I had contacts. He goes, I felt 100% confident that you guys were who you said you were. And then come to find out, he was, I was like, I bet you did. I bet you had a camera on my home. You knew exactly what everything was going on. So he was very, very comfortable.
Watched
right.
You for a week.
But it's just so funny how two different people. Right. And it turns out that guy was just, the other guy wasn't anything
he probably worked in the office. Or
he didn't,
something.
no, he didn't even work for the CIA. Because he actually looked it up. He actually got the guy's name. He still has contacts. He's like, hey, this guy ever worked for the agency? And it turns out this guy was just telling tales.
Is he today?
Yeah.
I
no, but we heard back from the real guy.
No,
the real guy does. No, I don't think I haven't heard his name. I don't know. But the other guy actually is retired, does very well.
Right.
Does very, very well. So that's, that it's the people that come through here which I look forward to every month. We've had Hall of Famers, NFL Hall of Famers, which are cool athletes.
Kris, do you remember the guy that was kidnapped in South America? Remember that guy? He was kidnapped because his family was wealthy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the one I remember.
do remember that guy. Yeah, we had a guy that came from a very wealthy family in I forget what country it was.
I don't remember.
And the government basically seized he had like a big operation, I think in mining possibly, right? And wealthy family government just came one day with machine guns and said, we're taking over this operation. And literally the family had to flee and they fled to Miami. So
you could have a whole podcast on people.
Yeah, you could. You absolutely could. So
You definitely sparked an idea.
Yeah. It's the people who come through here and the stories of how they got here and just learning about what they did prior always impress me. Yeah. So anything else?
Yeah, I got a good one.
All right.
When was the last time you were truly surprised?
Easy. When my daughter came home and said she's doing a wrestling. That threw me off. I've seen a lot in my day, and I don't want to sound old, but I have, just being in this business. I've come across a lot of people. Nothing really surprises me much. I hate to say that, but that hit home. When my daughter came home and said, signing up for wrestling. I was like, wrestling? What? And she's a girly girl. You know what I mean? It's not like,
Right.
she just, you wouldn't think she was even into that. That's what surprised me.
Sure.
100%. I go, I want to be that parent though, where I don't want to discourage her.
Of course.
Right. Who am I to say you can't do something? Right. Especially. And I said, but that father instinct comes out. I was like, sure, you want to do this? Like, you're afraid of her getting hurt, or she's like, no, this is something that I want to do. I said, okay. All right. Like, so I had to get behind and support her, but also be scared at the same time. But I can tell you, once I saw the first match and how she handled that, I mean, then I wasn't scared anymore. And now I love it because it's a life lesson, right? Those skills will go with her.
Oh, absolutely.
For the rest of her life, which,
as a dad,
that's a great thing. She could hold her own. So anything else?
So we had one more.
Okay.
Has there ever been a business opportunity that you passed on or that turned out to be really successful and maybe you regret passing on it?
A business opportunity, in my career, not so much for myself solely, because anything that I've come across and I jump in all the way, right? And I've had some failures, but with respect to that question, yeah, there was I get opportunities passed on me all the time by other people. Hey, you want to co-invest? You want to do this? You want to do that? Not something out of my own idea. It's just something that crosses my plate. And there is probably a while back, when I say a while back, maybe 17, 18 years ago, there was a person that I was friends with that said, hey, he was starting his first Dunkin' Donuts. And he goes, do you want to go in with me? Right. And at the time it was like, I don't know, $300,000-$400,000, which I had, but it would have been a big deal for me, if that makes sense, right? Like it would have been a big deal for me to do it. So I elected not to, and he found some other partners. And today we're still friends, but he has like 20 Dunkin' Donuts in the area here, right? All in the area, Schenectady, Albany. He's grown his business, right? And I've grown my business. So I'm not sitting here crying poor mouth, but he, I look back on that. And if I wouldn't have been an operator. I just would have been more of more an investor into it. And it would have been a nice little thing. At least I could have got free coffee and munchkins out of it, right? Which my kids always have me get on the weekend. So, yeah, that's maybe one thing that I passed on. But I outside of that, no, I don't really have any regrets, because anything that, at least I've manifested or I've set out to create my own, I've tried to do, so.
Great.
All right. Well, with that being said, listen, I appreciate you coming down here. I know, well, wasn't a lot to come down here because you're
really long
you're
drive.
local. You're local. Just be lucky I didn't have you come down here at night. Okay. Because then
Have
right?
a spider right here.
I have a spider right there. But no, I do appreciate you taking the time to come down here. It means a lot, and this is a unique experience for me to have somebody local, which is great to highlight. And I wish you continued success in your business.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having us.
All right. Absolutely. Well, everybody, that wraps it up for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it for Entrepreneurs in Finance. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you could see more of these. We do have others planned, I promise. People have been messaging me for at least a couple of months saying, when's the next podcast? And I just haven't had the time to sit down and do it just based on the craziness that's going on here, which is a good thing. Been super busy with lending. But we have a few more lined up, so you'll be seeing a lot more come out. And don't forget to download our CCTG app. You can go on either your Android or your iPhone. It's on there to catch streaming content, and these episodes come out. You'll know when they come out firsthand. So you'll get a notification. Thanks, everybody, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. You know, people always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's two words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business.